Hey ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here for Digital Dojos. And with Apple's September 7th event finally wrapped up, let's talk about the products that were announced, what may be worth upgrading, and some things to keep in mind. Starting off with the very well-renowned, and I'm sure highly talked about, and what you're probably clicking on this video for, iPhone 14. Apple's iPhones are more popular than ever. It was recently announced that Apple's iPhones have eclipsed that of Android in terms of total market share at 50%. And with that, Apple has announced their latest flagship phone, the iPhone 14, and it's going to come in 4 variants: iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Plus, iPhone 14 Pro, and iPhone 14 Pro Max. The way you can look at it is essentially there's 2 phones in each category: the baseline models, the non-pros, and then the pro models. You have 6.1 and 6.7 inch screen sizes on each side of the fence. So you no longer have to choose between getting the non-pro model, but you still want a bigger screen. You can do that with the iPhone 14 Plus. And then if you want the Pro editions, you can still get the standard size or the bigger screen size. So they've standardized the kind of the lineup and the form factors, RIP to that of the iPhone mini. But let's start with the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus. This, regardless of how Apple is packaging it, regardless of how they market it during the event, is featuring the A15 Bionic chip, which is the chip in the iPhone 13. Don't let the marketing fool you. This is not a new chip. There is improvements on the GPU side with an extra core, but the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus are rocking the same chip that's in that of the iPhone 13. The camera tech is relatively the same. It's still the same 12 megapixel camera. It's an improved FaceTime and selfie camera, which is definitely long overdue and a nice addition. But it's the same 12 megapixel rear camera with a slightly improved sensor for improved low light photography and video. But at the end of the day, it's a very minimal jump. With that, you're getting some quality of life emergency service features like the satellite connectivity and the car crash detection sensor. All features I would hope you never have to use, but are nice to have in general. But what I'm trying to say here is the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus are essentially, and insert your memes here, the iPhone 13 in all aspects in design, in almost hardware aspects as well. That said, it's not a price difference. It's coming in at $799, $800 baseline model. If you were going to get the 13 and you held out to see if the 14 was going to be worth it, I would argue you're better off still getting the 13 and saving a couple hundred extra bucks, or spending that extra money and getting something like an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max at that rate, and you would be better off. Or just holding off in general for the next edition or another phone, because the 14 and 14 Plus, to me personally, whether you're coming from the 13 or not, are just not worth it, in my opinion, at the current moment. Now, the Pro and Pro Max upgrades. Now, they are getting the A16 Bionic chip, the faster CPU. They're getting significantly improved cameras across the board, from the ultra-wide, telephoto, etc., and up to 48 megapixels if you're shooting an Apple Pro RAW. Simply put, this is the best camera you can get on iPhone, and I would argue probably going to be one of the best cameras, period, in terms of the mobile market. This is also getting a slightly improved design that's going to distinguish it between that of the 13 Pro and Pro Max with this new notchless design. They're somewhat ditching the notch in terms of this new pill-like design at the top of your screen. They'll almost get you there to kind of seamless design. But what's cool here and what Apple did is they took this pill-like design and they took this hardware feature and integrated with that of their software and what they're calling Dynamic Island. Essentially, when your iPhone, when you're doing certain tasks in certain apps, you can use this menu at the top to essentially see and quickly jump between certain actions, like an alarm or something that's playing in the background of your iPhone. This takes like the perfect example of a hardware-like design and what some people might see as a limitation or an eyesore, and fuse it with really good software to make it feel seamless, to make that notch or lack thereof feel like an extension of the phone. And I'm actually really excited to see and demo this in person. I thought the demos that they showcased and what I've seen online look pretty promising. And Dynamic Island, well, it's not the greatest name, is a nice addition to make this design feel like an extension of the software. The iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max are also getting an always-on display, so you can see the clock and widgets regardless if your phone is in sleep mode. It's going to be improved battery life, and no price hikes, all at $999. So in theory, like, you're getting better cameras, you're getting better processing power, you're getting a new notch design, you're getting a better display, a brighter display, an always-on OLED display, compared to where the 14 and the 13 are essentially the same phone to me. So simply put, if you want the best of the best, if you have the money to shell out, you want the best possible camera, yeah, the 14 Pro and Pro Max is a no-brainer. To me, this is a more justifiable upgrade for somebody like myself who's going from the 13 Pro Max to the 14 Pro Max, which I'm going to be pre-ordering here shortly. It's not a necessary upgrade, but it's a more justifiable one. You're actually getting a significant amount of things in comparison to the baseline model. Now, again, that being said, if you're coming from previous editions of phones, that's something you're going to have to weigh out whether or not those extra couple bucks are worth it. But I would argue at this point, it's worth spending a couple extra bucks to get the Pro model in this case. Like, that's going to just be the best bang for your buck in terms of overall when it comes to the iPhone 14 lineup. Now, speaking of other products that were also announced, the Apple Watch got some updates across the board. They have the SE, which is the base model. This is like replacing the Series 3. Essentially, this is the entry-level Apple Watch. If you don't want to like fully dive into the Apple Watch ecosystem, maybe you're getting as a gift for somebody or like your first smartwatch and you want to try it out. This comes in at $249. The Series 8 is the flagship Apple Watch. It's replacing that of the Series 7. And in this case, it's very, very minimal. It's like the same exact design as the Series 7. The only noticeable hardware change is that of the body temperature sensor, which is going to be useful for things like ovulation or cycle counts and other aspects. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as the Series 7. Same battery life, same form factor. It's going to have that crash detection sensor. But outside of that, you're getting the Series 8 at $400. That's going to be available September 16th. If you are in the Apple Watch ecosystem or have used it previously, and maybe you're on like a Series 4, 5, 6, and you were deciding between this, getting the 7 or seeing what the 8 has to offer, it really is a toss-up. If you want to save a couple $100 extra bucks and you don't care about the body temperature sensor, get the Series 7. If you want the body temperature sensor and you're looking for a new Apple Watch, Series 8 it is. But with that, the spotlight was really put on that of the Apple Watch Ultra. This is what people were thinking would be deemed the Apple Watch Pro, essentially. This is like I wouldn't even say the top of the line. It's not like the luxury Apple Watch. That was like the crazy special edition and the Hermes edition, which like arguably for like a smartwatch isn't worth it. But this is like the feature and function and pushing that to the max when it comes to the Apple Watch. The Ultra is meant for people who like really push their Apple Watches to the limit or wanted more out of something, and that's why they couldn't use the Apple Watch because like it wasn't true all day battery life. It didn't have the sensors they wanted. It didn't have the resistance they wanted. This is the answer to all of that. The Ultra has a rugged design. It's a newer design that kind of improves on the current Apple Watch with a new crown guard, a new programmable button. I'll be honest, I'm personally not a fan of this kind of like orange buttons and stuff that's all like on this Ultra design. I just don't like the look of it. It does look more rigid and rugged, and I think it's built on titanium, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm sure will add to the overall durability. But just the design aesthetic of it, I'm personally just not a fan of. It has more water resistance, up to 100 meters, really great for things like divers. Improved GPS with dual band technology, increased brightness. And with that, on that display, you're talking a 49 millimeter display. Granted, the standard Apple Watch is either 41 or 45. 49 millimeters, if you're a fan of watches or know anything about them, it's a pretty big watch face. And for somebody like myself with smaller wrists, that thing's going to be a pretty hefty watch. Granted, what a lot of people are saying is the weight doesn't feel like it. Like the overall weight and heft of it doesn't feel like it due to the titanium body. It's durable, but still light. But that's still 49 millimeters. It's still a pretty big watch face. All of this coming in at a 36-hour battery life claim. So that's double that of the Series 8, their latest flagship device. So this is, again, really geared towards those enthusiasts, those power users, I would argue like professional athletes who use this on a day-to-day basis and want the most out of their Apple Watch. And this is all going to come in at $800 price point, which I would argue is a very fair price point when you start looking at other competitors like Garmin out there who offer very similar smartwatches for this field. And generally when we see Apple come out with a product like this, you pay that Apple premium and Apple tax. Again, I would argue this is pretty fairly priced for what it is. It's not for everybody. It's not going to be for the everyday consumer. You know who you are. You know what you want out of this if you're getting this at that point. So yeah. With that, last but not least is the Apple AirPods Pro 2, the much needed upgrade to that of the Apple AirPods Pro, which have been out for quite a while and have been a big fan favorite product. They're getting a new case design, which as you see there, can easily get lost or dropped. But the new case design is going to feature Find My detection technology. It's going to feature a new speaker grill on it so that you can actually ping the case and not just the earbuds to find them when they're lost. It's going to feature a new lanyard connector to make it easier and convenient to carry around. While the headphones themselves are getting improved touch controls finally, and the new H2 chip for improved signal and connectivity. This means better overall audio quality, as well as better improved active noise canceling. They're claiming up to 2 times better active noise canceling due to the improved mics and sensors that are built into the new AirPods Pro 2. Same exact kind of design language, nothing crazy there. They are claiming a better fit. I think they're even offering an extra pair of tips in the AirPods Pro 2, while offering new features like the personalized spatial audio, which basically kind of like scans your ear and can kind of determine the best acoustics for your listening experience, which is a nice little addition there. All while offering 33% better battery life in the AirPods Pro 2, which is nice because for those of you who own AirPods Pro, as you probably know, if you had them for a while, those tend to deteriorate over time. All while also being compatible now with the Apple Watch charger for wireless Qi charging. Coming in at $249, so the standard baseline price that the current AirPods Pro are running at. Available for pre-order actually starting today. So all in all, a nice little announcement across the board for these devices and lineups. A lot of these replacing are just much needed refinements to existing products. I think the prosumer-consumer gap for Apple products is slowly closing. In the past, where it was very evident, like you got a MacBook Pro if you were doing creative work or what have you, that is, I think, changing in time with the way we're doing things with software and stuff like that. A lot of the future-facing features for iOS and phones in general, I think, are going to be more dependent on the software and bridge that gap. I would argue nowadays, at least in the circles that I revolve around with, like a lot of people care about having the best phone quality and camera quality and whatnot, and they tend to gravitate more towards the Pro models of phones because of that. Now, of course, that comes with price points and budget and so on and so forth, but these prosumer products, which Apple pushed a lot of in this very keynote, whether it's the Apple Watch Ultra, the AirPods Pro 2, or the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, I think are going to become more and more of like the standard for normal consumers as well, and that's where you have this kind of prosumer market. But yeah, refinements across the boards that were much needed. Definitely nice to see. Nothing revolutionary, just iterating on that same formula, which again is very typical of Apple at this point. Nothing out of left field. We didn't get the crazy Reality Pro AR VR goggles quite yet, but there's still time left in the year. So let me hear what you guys are thinking about upgrading, what products are exciting for you. Personally, I'm going to be picking up the AirPods Pro 2 as well as upgrading to that of the 14 Pro Max. So stay tuned and consider subscribing for that content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.